This is Love Never Fails with your host, Marilyn Redmond. Marilyn shares her experience, strength, and hope, and includes tools to help you find your inner strength for health, healing, and empowerment. So now, please welcome the host of Love Never Fails, Marilyn Redmond.
I am your host, Marilyn Redmond. You're listening to Love Never Fails. We are on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. And I want to welcome all my listeners and all you new listeners coming in. Tell all your friends that we're here every Tuesday afternoon, 6 o'clock Eastern Time. And we also have call-in questions, and you can call us in at 866-451-1451. And if you remember, Dr. Joy Brown used to have people calling in all the time with questions, and I've answered several 100,000 questions on the internet. I'm not new at this. I've been counseling for about 30 years now, and so I do have answers if you're interested, and we have a wonderful guest today who can answer your questions today too. And I'm sorry we had a couple of reruns last couple weeks on this program. I've been down for a while, but I'm backing up, kicking again, and still trying to get on my feet. But, you know, we're here today, and I was so thrilled because we have with us today Laurel Brooks, who I will introduce in a minute, and she's an exciting, wonderful lady, and you're going to love what she has to say. But I would like to remind you about my books on Amazon.com. And I'm excited to say they are selling, and you can be part of that too. Get on my website. I have an author's page on Amazon.com. And my latest book is Finding Reality Beyond Fear. And that's what our guest today helps you do. So it might be just the book you're looking for and might help you along the path too. So my other books all are about helping us find empowerment, moving into our self of who we truly are, and releasing the past so we can live in the now. And these books have tools and information and support to help you grow through those issues. So as we are talking about it, let's find out who our guest is today. Her name is Laurel Brooks, and she is going to help us with our changing energy. She is an expert with EFT, and we're going to ask her all about that. Welcome, Laurel.
Well, thank you. I'm delighted to be with you today, Marilyn.
Well, you have a lot of credentials and a lot of training and a lot of experience with what we're doing on this show and how we're trying to improve our lives. And maybe you could tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came into this calling.
Well, a lifelong passion to help others inspired my initial career as an elementary school teacher. I love children. And encouraging kids to acknowledge and honor their emotions was the most rewarding aspect of teaching for me. In fact, it motivated my degree in counseling, because after teaching for several years, I went back to school and got a master's in counseling. And I've helped hundreds of clients develop transformational and self-empowerment skills in seminars, groups, and individually through the years. I have a background in Reiki, massage therapy, craniosacral, healing touch, certified hypnotherapist. I've just gone the holistic route all the way, and it's the therapies I've used are so powerful that there's just nothing in life that brings me more joy than looking in the eyes of your client when they experience that love in their own heart. And there are just no words to describe this. And this is what I get to do with people.
Well, that's really interesting. It's wonderful to hear you share about your passion. And we have a very similar history. I started out as a grade school teacher and have taught everything from kindergarten through college. In fact, I taught these kinds of classes in the junior colleges around here. And that led me into counseling because I had a student in the room one day came up to me after class and she says, "Do you do counseling?" And I thought, well, teachers are basically counseling all the time, so I guess I do. Exactly. So I said yes. And so she started coming to see me, and then I started the same route you did as finding other certification for healing and ended up with hypnotherapy, past life regression, and of course the various modalities you've been talking about. So we have a real similar background. And I agree that the greatest thing that can happen is when the client actually moves into that new space. I feel like I just healed a little bit of heaven.
Yes, yes, yes.
Well, it's really nice to have you here. And, it's interesting to hear that you've also done Reiki, because we had a Reiki person on here earlier. And we're going to be having some more people on here that do similar work as you. What makes your counseling a little different than the rest?
Well, I think the background that I bring to it, because I have done so many different modalities, and working with kids, my years of counseling and doing hypnosis with clients have helped me develop extraordinary listening skills. And most people don't listen well, I have noticed. And I also never give clients any pushback, none. I use EFT, emotional freedom technique, to help them look at their own patterns and choices and find that awareness within themselves so that they can feel really safe with me and know that I am not there to judge or criticize them. And that creates trust. And safety and trust are part of the healing. So this, along with me doing my own healing work first, allows me to be completely present for my clients without projecting my issues on them.
Well, that's really exciting because I know that different counselors have different ways of addressing these situations. And I agree with you wholeheartedly when you say those things about, accepting the person where they're at and helping them to do it in a loving, kindly, listening way so that they feel accepted and trusted. This has really been the basis of my counseling, too. And I found out that listening is really love. And so many of the clients have not been listened to. They don't feel understood, and so they aren't free to share what they have to share, the feelings that have been hidden and stuffed. And obviously you're doing a terrific job of letting them know it's safe with you, and that is the real glory of being a good counselor.
Yes.
Now, you mentioned EFT, and I know that's your major focus. Can you help us understand more about EFT?
Yes. EFT stands for Emotional Freedom Technique, or tapping. You hear it spoken about in both ways. And what it is it's very, very gentle tapping on certain energy points, mostly on the head and on the upper body. And these are the acupuncture points, but we don't use needles. We only use our fingertips. And when these points are stimulated, some really powerful things happen. It can reduce pain. It can reduce stress where you just feel like, It calms the nervous system. And when the nervous system is calm, the muscles will relax. Only then will the muscles relax. It helps connect us spiritually. It helps us change states from the beta to the alpha.
I'm sorry. Can you hold that comment for just a minute? We're going to break a break, Laurel, and we'll be right back. So hang on a minute, listeners, and you're going to hear some more about EFT with Laurel Brooks. This is Love Never Fails. I'm Marilyn Redmond. We're coming to you live from the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. Okay, I'm Marilyn, your host, Marilyn Redmond. You're listening to Love Never Fails, and we are on the BBM Global Network, TuneIn Radio, and we have a caller on the air. And would you like to introduce yourself, caller?
Yeah, hi, this is Linda Schiller-Hanna, and I just wanted to share that I have received several treatments of EFT with Laurel, and it's been an absolutely life-changing experience. She's gifted healer and aware and intuitive and gentle. The best thing she's done is make it incredibly safe, and I'm just so grateful that you're letting her message get out, Marilyn. You're doing a great job there. So I just wanted to say hello to you guys and just encourage people to pay attention, because this EFT is an amazing process.
Well, I know you've had a lot of
Linda.
a lot of success with this, and Laurel's had a lot to do with that. I'm so glad you're joining us today.
Yeah, it's been wonderful. She's helped me with a variety of things. I had a lot of child abuse, and she's helped me with my self-esteem. She's helped me with my hoarding and cluttering issues. She's helped me with overspending. She's helped me, I could go on and on. Just, a lot of it just really personal stuff, but just shifting in my understanding about my family, my story. This woman has even introduced me to one of my spirit guides, Magic the Unicorn, who is makes it safe for me to get into the work when I'm anxious. So she's got a lot of tools and skills and just genuine love. You can't buy the love she gives you. You either got it or not. In this, your show is Love Never Fails, and you're both very loving. So I just wanted to say that. I don't need to stay on the air, but I just wanted to share how much I appreciate Laurel and you too, Marilyn, for the work you've both done with me.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
All right.
Thank you, Linda. Good to hear your voice.
Good to hear yours. I love you guys. I'm going to let you go now. Take care.
Thanks for calling in.
Take care.
Thanks for calling.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Well, Laurel, that was a real treat. And you were telling us about how EFT works. And I'm sorry we interrupted you, but we're back. And if you can continue what you were talking about, hopefully that we'll just carry on.
Okay. What I was saying is that what tapping very, very gently on these acupuncture points with our fingers, no needles, is that they promote healing, they boost the immune system, they release tension, they increase circulation, they reduce pain, and they promote a spiritual connection because they actually change our states. When we're, like right now, Marilyn, we are in beta state. Think of beta as busy. We're talking, but when you meditate, when you're under hypnosis, when you do EFT tapping, it shifts your state to the alpha state, and you're much more able to transmute limiting beliefs when you change states.
Well, I understand that completely. Go ahead.
Okay, so what the tapping does is it destabilizes, decompresses, and collapses blocked energy in the system. Because you know how when you let's say you get triggered by somebody, they say something and your anger is triggered immediately, for example. And it's like you lose your ability to think rationally. And the reason for that is that when we get triggered, up to 80% of our blood flows from our prefrontal cortex. That's our thinking, rational brain, down into the emotional brain. And so the emotional brain gets stimulated, and we can say or do things that we later have to do damage control, And so by tapping, it restores the blood flow to your prefrontal cortex so that you get your rational mind back. The best thing I tell people do is when you're with somebody and you get triggered, if you can just say, "Excuse me," and walk away, get off by yourself, start tapping, even if it's for 2 minutes, and bring yourself back to your rational mind. And wow, what a difference that will make.
Well, thanks for explaining that. I look at it from a little different point of view, but it's the same answer. That's what's beautiful about all of this. There's so many ways to perceive it. When I take my clients into that regression or hypnosis state, I call it an altered state, and you bypass the ego and you go strictly into the truth of who you are right now. And that's when you do change your energy, because the past is no longer an influence and the worry isn't even here, of course. So when you're in the now, that's when the energy changes, and that's what you're doing, is bypassing the ego so they can come back into being rational again. And thank you for explaining your part of it, because I'd never heard it that way before, so that was new.
Yeah, cool, huh?
Yeah, well, we're all doing the same thing, and I was talking to somebody earlier, but sometimes we have different terms, and the more we can understand how they're all interchangeable, oftentimes, actually, we have a better view of what's going on and a better understanding.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. So, yeah, I believe it's a spiritual rearrangement of our energy, too, that we release the fear, the guilt.
I love that, the spiritual rearrangement of our energy. That's cool.
Well, thank you. Yeah, that's basically what we're doing, is we're helping people move into the truth of who they are spiritually. And you're doing it with a lovely, like you say, it's not obtrusive way to handle this. And that's what makes it really practical for so many people. Like Linda called in and mentioned a lot of childhood abuse. I did that too. And I went to one particular practitioner, and they were very ruthless, I would call it, and I never went back again because I'd had enough of that. So what you're offering is a wonderful substitute. And if people have questions about this, call in 866-451-1451, because I'm sure Laurel will have all the answers for you. She's doing a great job with what she's helping people in this EFT, this tapping. And, you mentioned that this is where the energy changes, and that's what I'm discovering is the more we move into that space, we call it hypnosis, but it's that meditative space. That's reality, and we don't have the ego anymore directing influencing our behaviors and thoughts. And I want you to answer this question. How do your thoughts affect your emotions?
Wow, that's a great question. Totally. Our emotions come from our thoughts, because if you do something or if you say something to me and I decide that you don't like me and that's why you're saying whatever you're saying to me, that is a thought. It's a limiting belief. It's an untrue belief. And so from that thought of, oh, Marilyn doesn't like me, I can go into not good enough. I can go into unworthy. I can go into not belonging.
Okay, let's hold that thought, Laurel. Oh, can you hold that thought? Because when we get back, we're going to tell everybody where you go after you hold those thoughts, and we're going to be back. I'm Marilyn Redmond, and this is Love Never Fails, and we're coming to you live from the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. Hi, I'm Marilyn Redmond. This is Love Never Fails, and we are on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio, listening to Laurel Brooks today. It's really an exciting program if you've been tuning in, and be sure and call in, too, with your questions, 866-451-1451. And we're talking about EFT. Some people call it tapping, and she's explaining this really well so that you get a better understanding that this is a really safe way to change your energy, change your feelings, and she's talking about changing your thoughts. So we get a better results with our life, the life that we truly would have wanted all the time, didn't really maybe know how to get to that new place, and she's the one that can help you. And it's really interesting to hear her explain it. And so, Laurel, if you will continue with when we move out of that old place, where do we go?
Okay, so your question to me was, what do our thoughts have to do with our feelings? And I said everything. And for example, when I was little, I heard shame on you, shame, shame, shame by my mother with a pointed finger at me when she would get upset. Now, she was frustrated, and she was trying to teach me that what I was doing was not acceptable. But how I interpreted it was, when I saw that finger wagging at me, I interpreted as I wasn't good enough and I was unworthy. And that created a lot of sadness and lack of self-esteem with me. And And this deep, deep feeling of not good enough mainly came across to me as a deep sadness.
Mm-hmm.
And so our emotions are born from our thoughts. The thought will always come first. So when I'm feeling an emotion, if I go back to the thought, I'll say, what thought was I thinking that created this emotion? That's one way to get at it.
That's a wonderful, wonderful piece of information, because I had to change my thinking. And we had a program on here earlier about affirmations and how that can help change your thoughts, because you can change them from feeling not worthy or good enough. I had in a meditation, the silent voice came to me after I've done years of changing my thoughts and told me, Marilyn, there's nothing wrong with you. There's never been anything wrong with you, and you are good enough. You are a good person. And you've always been good enough, is what it said. And, nobody had ever told me that kind of information. So with my counseling, I use positive affirmations to replace the old messages that were given to, like you received, the shaming. I got that too. And so it's really important to see that I have to take the effort. Nobody's got a magic wand, but you've got next thing to the magic wand, so you can help them actually move through that into the better feelings and the better energy. And that's what this is all about. So congratulations that you're helping so many people.
Yeah, thank you. It's really fun.
Well, I also know that through this process, I gave up all my old beliefs. I found they put me in a box like Pandora's box. And so I opened up the box, and today I just know in my heart I'm a worthy person, and I don't have to feel that shame because I'm just as good as anybody else. And that was my mother's illness and her shaming that she was projecting onto me, and I don't have to buy into it anymore.
Yeah, right.
So, we can look at these things from a new picture and a bigger picture when we understand that in many cases, my information of what caused me to think I was an unworthy child, like you had that experience, was because we were little kids and didn't know how to see a more popular and positive point of view of what was really going on. And so you're helping open people's minds and lives into what really is the truth rather than what we were taught as children. We don't have to stay in that old messages as the children that we were. We get to outgrow them, and thank you for helping us do that.
Oh, yes, it's my pleasure. Absolutely.
So it's really important today that we find places and people like you that can help us move forward. How does this benefit adults? I know Linda shared some of the things that it helped her with. What other benefits can adults find from this technique?
One of the things that completely derails us that we just touched on is our limiting beliefs. And our limiting beliefs cause a lot of really heavy emotions of sadness, depression, anger, rage, those kind of things. And they do a number on us. And a lot of times people don't even know that they're feeling them. What we do in tapping is... Well, let me back up for a minute and say that buried emotions or unresolved shadow emotions actually create energy blocks in the body. They're like shorts or zaps in the electrical system of the body. And these deep-seated emotional blocks are not cleared with the head. I think Einstein said you don't solve a problem at the problem level. You have to rise above it. And so they demand an intervention that bypasses the conscious mind to create lasting change. And that's where EFT comes in. Because when you're just feeling, let's say, really frustrated, we tap on the emotion and we see what comes up. When you start tapping, things start coming to you. And you might get a thought, you might get a picture, a visual, but it leads us down a path. And so we just keep walking down the path together with no judgment, but just a curiosity. And we start tapping on the emotions, and it unravels oftentimes a story. And the client is often surprised at what comes forward. And when these limiting emotions are cleared, you get your life back.
Well, in my case, Oh, go ahead. I didn't have a life. Actually, this kind of treatment actually brought me into finding out that I wasn't living a life. I was stuffing all my feelings, and I was just a walking zombie or a robot or a puppet. We were going to be returning with Laurel Brooks, and she's going to tell us more benefits about EFT when we return. I'm Marilyn Redmond. This is Love Never Fails, and we're coming live from the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. I am your host, Marilyn Redmond, and you are listening today to Love Never Fails. We're on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. And we're talking with Laurel Brooks, who's explaining the tapping, or you might have heard EFT before. You might have a lot of questions about it. She's just full of information today. And I'm sure she'll share any answers that you would like to ask. Call in 866-451-1451. And we've had a caller today, so another one would be welcome. And if you have some concerns, give us a call. And she's talking about the benefits of EFT with adults. And then if you know about what you could share with how this helps children too, Laurel, that would be helpful for all of us.
Okay, I've got a great story. So I was talking to my niece one day, and she mentioned that her 5-year-old son, we'll call him Michael, who had been an angel, had all of a sudden turned into this monster, and she didn't know what to. She didn't know what to do with him. So we got off the phone, and I got this idea in my head because I had watched a video, and I thought, you know what? I am going to work with Michael without telling anybody. So what I did the next morning, I got up, and 5 days in a row, I worked with him long distance. I first went in and I got his permission on the inner level, and I worked with him for 15 minutes every morning for 5 mornings, and I had a teddy bear. And so I would tap on the teddy bear and say some of the things that my niece had told me about him. He was upset about something in school. He was upset about this and that. And so I would use the bear and say, oh, Bear is so upset about what his teacher said to him. He's so upset about what the other kids said to him. Somebody picked on him, and Bear felt so bad about himself. Let's let Bear know how much we love him and how much he is okay just the way he is, and that kind of thing. So I did that. Didn't tell a soul, every day for 5 days. And at the end of 5 days, I called my niece back, and we were talking, and I said, by the way, how's Michael doing? And she said, oh, my God, what did you do to him? I said, well, why do you ask? And she said, he has been a model child all week long. And she said, and so I told her what I did, and she said, oh, that answers it. And I said, answers what? And she's like, he has never been a child to like stuffed animals. Oh. And she said this week he went in the back of his sister's closet and he dug out this bear. He dressed the bear. He slept with it every night and brought it to school with him.
How cool.
Yeah. So I mean, that is just a testimonial, not just to EFT, but to any kind of long-distance energy work.
Well, I know I've done lots of long-distance energy work myself in counseling. I was wondering if your method would be very helpful for ADD children.
Oh, yes. Because it's so good to work with a stuffed animal because they can remove themselves and focus on this other object, but at the same time, they are still taking it all in. And they're not feeling like they're on the spot because it's about the bear having these feelings, not them. So it helps them feel very, very safe, very, very quickly.
Well, I think it would be a marvelous answer instead of all the drugs the children are put on. This would be a tremendous parents, if you're out there, grandparents, relatives, aunts, uncles, if you know children that need this kind of help, to get them off the prescriptions, which don't really help change energy. It actually stops it from changing, from my experience, and help get this kind of help for your children not to have to be drugged, but to come into the truth that they're a loved child and they don't have to act out. This, Laurel, what you're doing is just tremendous, and I hope people will be calling off your phone off the hook so that you can help these children. You have a talent and an ability to do this, and if more and more people take advantage of it, the less medications we're going to need. This is marvelous.
Yeah, it really is. It's
so
fun too.
Oh, I know it's fun. And like you said, you know, when you're helping people, you feel so good from it. It's just like, oh, how wonderful this is to help people be in a better place where they really want to be in the first place.
Yes. Yes.
How do you suggest honoring your emotions?
That's a really good question, and that's my specialty. Is I help people. I teach people to honor their emotions because they don't think about honoring their emotions. It just doesn't. It just does not compute. And for example, let's say you're grieving a loss. Your loved one dies, and that is really heavy, and it's so heavy, and it feels so awful that what we do is push it down and go for food or go for alcohol or go for nicotine or go for prescription drugs or something, street drugs. And of course, we know that all that does is mask symptoms. But if you actually engage, you first of all ask yourself, okay, where am I feeling this pain? Oftentimes it will be in the heart chakra. And so you put your hand on your heart chakra and you say to the pain, I'm here for you. I give you my love. I give you space. I give you a microphone. Speak to me. I'm listening to you. I honor you. I love you. I give you my love. And you actually beam loving kindness into your heart or wherever you're feeling the heavy emotion. And you just, it's good if you tap, if you can walk, because walking is movement. Movement moves energy. Walking, tapping, and saying those affirmations, it's amazing how light your heart can feel quickly.
Thank you for that. We're going to be back with some more of Laurel's amazing information today. I am Marilyn Redmond. You're listening to Love Never Fails, and we are coming to you live from BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. I am Marilyn Redmond. This is Love Never Fails. We are on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. And I know you have a question you'd love to ask Laurel or me. If you have a question you want me to answer, call in at 866-451-1451. And we'll be thrilled to have you calling in and letting everybody else know your question, because if you're thinking it, probably 500 other people are too. So you're not alone with this. There's a lot of questions about EFT and how it might apply in your situation. So give us a call, 866-451-1451. And I just want to agree with what Laurel said in our last section, because I've learned it to explain it from a little different point of view, but I love the way you said it, Laurel. I come from a spiritual point of view that our enemies are those splintered parts of our soul, and that's what we are loving back together. Somebody has to love us, and when we bring those parts that have been wounded and abused, and as you mentioned, shamed, or school experiences that have caused, when I taught school, the playground could be brutal at times. And they would come in and somebody wouldn't let me. And those are harmful messages that children receive. And when you said to take time out and embrace those feelings, it's amazing how you can love yourself back together in wholeness, because we're whole spirits. We have always been whole spirits, and we don't have to let somebody else shatter our souls. We can love us back together into our wholeness. And that, when I went...
I love that.
Well, thank you. The first time I went, I had such frozen feelings when I was coming into my recovery. I've been doing this work for 32 years now, and I went into grief for the first time, and I thought, I'll have to spend some time with my grief. And that's what you were saying, is for people to take the time out and love yourself back together. And then if you have to get up and take care of whatever project or whatever, you can come back and love your grief again. These situations teach us to love ourselves like the way we were loved when we were created, in that love. And that's what it's a matter of understanding. And Laurel, you're giving us some great understanding today about how we can love ourselves back together. And there's so many ways to look at it, and there's no one way that's the right way. So what is your biggest challenge in your practice right now?
I would say my biggest challenge is marketing, because it's not one of my favorite things, and it's not something that comes it doesn't flow through me. Let's just put it that way.
Well, I found it's a real challenge to get the message out there, and it takes a lot of time and effort.
Mm-hmm.
And to have the right opportunities to, I started using news releases. Well, guess what? I found Facebook's very practical for this.
Right.
So there are ways to get it out there, but I think you're really right, is finding groups that are like-minded, looking for answers and whatever. And of course, people listening today, spread the word. Laurel is a very talented lady, and this is the best way to spread your message, is to let other people know about it and just share with them what you heard today on this program. And Laurel, how can they connect with you and contact you so that they can benefit from your very wonderful talent?
They can go to EFT, as in Emotional Freedom Technique, EFT Soul Path, SOULPATH.com, and find all my information there.
Well, that would be well worth your time, because not only for yourself, if you're an adult listener, or if you have children that are suffering from various difficulties, I've learned that this works with all parts of my life. It isn't just my beliefs, it just isn't my illnesses, but my behaviors. If people are compulsive, various parts of your life, actually you can cover it all, can't you, Laurel?
Yes, absolutely.
So, it's a matter of, do we want to fix ourselves? There's no one else out there that can give us peace or can save us. But if you pick up the phone or you contact Laurel, and I do similar work with my clients, we can assist you through the process and to the solution. And the solution is so well worth feeling good about yourself. You don't have to pop a pill to feel good. You don't have to see a million doctors to feel good. You can actually heal yourself through these programs and processes of EFT. And it's really a very valuable way to do it, because it's real and it's not using anything toxic. And most people today are coming into holistic health. So what Laurel's doing fits right into the slot of, this is a wonderful way to handle your illnesses, and it's much cheaper than some of the prescriptions a doctor calls nowadays, especially if you're in the hospital. And I wish everybody would use EFT or something similar.
Yes. It's really so self-empowering to know that when I get triggered, I can start tapping and bring my reactive self down.
Well, I want to let people hear your story about your daughter here in a few minutes. We'll have some time for that. And because shows how practical it is in real lifetime and experiences, and you'll maybe have never thought of it this way, but she has a marvelous story, and hopefully we're going to be able to hear all of it. So do you want to share it with us now? And then if we run out of time, we'll finish it on the last end of the program.
Yes, sure. I lost my 2-year-old daughter years ago. And as you can imagine, it was the most traumatic thing ever in my life. And when she passed, I saw this road, and the voice in my head said, there was a fork, and it was like, you can take one fork and live a life of poor me and why me and self-pity, or you can take another fork and let this experience empower you. And I knew what path I wanted to take. I wanted the path of self-empowerment. So that spurred me on to a lot of spiritual searching. And when I found EFT, it was the most effective way that I ever found to honor all of these emotions that I had stuffed down after my daughter died.
Okay, so when you come back, would you share us how you resolved this? And we'll be back in a minute with Laurel to finish your story. You're listening to Love Never Fails. I am Marilyn Redmond, and we are coming to you on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. I am your host, Marilyn Redmond. This is Love Never Fails, and we are on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. And Laurel's going to share the rest of her story about her daughter's death and how she handled her grief. And this is a very inspiring story, so keep listening. And Laurel, what would you like to continue? How would you like to continue your story?
Okay, well, the emotions that I tapped on were the deep sorrow that I felt, and I tuned into where I felt that sorrow in my body, and then I worked with it on that level. The feelings of not good enough, the failure, something I did wrong, which I didn't, but of course that's where the limiting belief goes, and the feeling of unworthiness. And so I worked with all of those things to help clear those limiting beliefs from my system. And I have a couple cool stories around my daughter. After she had passed, a few months after she had passed, I went to a healing sanctuary, and there was a basket for people, loved ones that had passed on, to put their name in. So I put Tara Beeler's name in that basket. And after the service, the woman who worked with these names came up to me and she said, "Laurel, is your daughter Tara Beeler?" And I said, "Yes." "Why?" And she said, "Because when I pulled her name out of the basket and put it to my heart to send her love, what I clearly heard was, I don't need this healing. Please send it to my mother." And so she started sending healing to Tara's mother, and she said, "And who would that be?" And then she got the voice, "This is Laurel Brooks." And so she wanted to verify it, and that's why she asked me that. But I thought that was just such a cool story, that Tara was letting me know that she was just fine. And along those same lines, I went to this 2-week seminar in the desert, and I realized that I thought my job was to heal my child, and I failed because she died. And I got so clearly, this voice spoke to me and said, you had it all wrong. I came to heal you. I was just fine. She wasn't perfect. She didn't have a perfect body, but she was just fine for what she came to do.
Well, that was wonderful. We're going to thank Laurel for coming today and sharing this beautiful story, how you can change your grief into something very productive and comforting, and that her daughter was doing just fine on the other side. We're the ones that have to heal our grief, and when they pass over, they usually are in good hands with God. So if we understand it's energy in motion, and we can change that motion into love, and that's what she helps us do. Laurel Brooks is a EFT practitioner, and reaching her at her website is possible. Next week, we are going to be having angel stories. I had to postpone them because of illness, but next week we will have those angel stories, so you'll be able to tune in, and you haven't missed them. And I know a lot of people were disappointed when they weren't on earlier, but they're coming next week. I promise I'll be back here. We won't have to put them off again. We also have a person coming to help us with flower essences in a couple weeks. And so you're going to have a lot of wonderful sessions coming on Love Never Fails. Don't miss us every Tuesday afternoon. I am Marilyn Redmond. You are listening to Love Never Fails, and this is the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. And we'll see you next week for Angel Stories. And Laurel, thank you for being here.
Oh, you are so welcome. Thank you for having me. Much love. Namaste.
Well, it was my pleasure, and have a great day, everybody. We're all in joy, gratitude, and the presence of feeling good today. Thank you.
You've been listening to Love Never Fails with your host, Marilyn Redmond. Go beyond old ideas and understandings and hear Marilyn's solutions to healing and a higher consciousness. Each week, here on Marilyn Redmond's Love Never Fails.